I am Greece. I used to be glorious, but yes, this is me. This is my great life story. I was many things. I was rhetoric, creative, strong, innovative, and a king of the world at that time. But that was long ago, and now I am not those things. I'm not what I was before, but let's not dwell on the past after all. We're talking about my life, so we might as well start at the beginning.
This is the story of my life, or how I came to be in the first place. I was founded in 2000 BC, and about 70 to 80% of me was mountainous, and 20 to 30% was good for farming. Even at that time, there were some people already living in three of my islands, Crete, Rhodes, and Thera. These guys were called Minoans. Apparently, they were pretty good navigators due to the fact that they were the first navy power in Greece. Me, the fact that they had no palace fortifications was a sign of their sea power. Aside from being great navigators, they were great farmers as well. They grew grain, herbs, olives, and fruit. They were advanced in bronze and artistic as well. They had Cycladic statuettes and ornate jewels all over their palaces. Their artworks revealed that they had a high degree of self-respect. And they adopted a keen eye for observation and their physical environment. They also built sanctuaries, which were built in the mountains of Crete, mainly used for their religious rites. Probably, the thing that people remember them for was that since they lived in Crete, they had the Minotaur. There was an ancient myth that Minos, mythical king of Crete, had a son who was half man and half bull. He used this, let's say, special child for keeping the Athenians in line. Every 7 years, the Athenians had to send 7 of their bravest men and 7 of their most beautiful women to Crete. There they would be sent to the labyrinth, a maze where Minos put the bloodthirsty Minotaur in. The tributes wandered around the labyrinth until one by one they died of hunger, thirst, or eaten by the Minotaur. Personally, I'd want to die of hunger because I don't eat. I think it would be a nice experience. One day, a hero called Theseus volunteered as tribute and killed the Minotaur with its own horn. That's the story of King Minos, folks. Next, we move to the downfall of the Minoans. There were several theories about how they declined. One was because of earthquakes, and another was because of a volcanic eruption at Thera. Then there was the theory that they declined because of a war between them and the Mycenaeans, who we're going to talk about after this.
The Mycenaeans came all the way from southern Russia at around 2000 BC, and at the same time, the Minoans came here. In about 1400 BC, they came here in Greece and most probably drove the Minoans away. The Mycenaeans were interested in war a lot. They built fortresses on hilltops so they could plan all sorts of strategic advantages. Their army was much more superior to the Minoans, which is probably how they probably defeated the Minoan navy. Minoans though, they attacked Troy as well. I'll tell you about the legend of Troy later. I was pretty sad that the Minoans left, but it wasn't all that bad because the Mycenaeans were just like the Minoans. They copied their clothing, vases, way of living, and even farming.
Now I'll tell you the story of Troy. It all started when Paris, son of King Priam of Troy, stole Helen, the wife of King Menelaus of Sparta. Long ago, all kings were fighting for Helen because she was the most beautiful person to have ever lived. After a few talks and some proposed gifts and introductions of suitors, they all agreed that Helen should choose her husband, and that everyone must take solemn oath that they will bear no ill will toward her or her husband. And if the kingdom her husband is to be attacked, all will rush to his aid. Helen chose Menelaus that day. When Paris abducted her, it was considered an attack by the men of Troy against Greece, causing all to take up arms and fight. Many were present, such as the Spartans, Argives, Mycenaeans led by King Agamemnon, Pythians, and many more. The war raged on for 10 years, and in that time, Achilles, the best of the Greek warriors, or Aristos, a Canyon, best of the Greeks in ancient Greek, died. They say he was invulnerable, everywhere on his body except on his heel, where he was shot by Paris after Achilles had killed Hector, son of Priam, the best warrior of the Trojans. At last, through a trick of building a giant wooden horse and giving it to the Trojans as a gift to appease the god of Artemis, the Greeks sacked Troy. The best warriors of the Greeks hid inside the horse, and at that night, they set the city on fire. There was little opposition, for all the Trojans were asleep. Now, time to talk about the theories of decline of the Mycenaeans. One theory is that due to a shift in climate, the Mycenaeans had to leave to find better, suitable environment for farming. Another theory is that they had to leave because of the invasion of the Dorians. That was the end of the Mycenaeans. And now we move on to the most recognizable and dominant states in ancient Greece: Athens and Sparta.
Athens. Athens was a very large city-state. It was where democracy was born. The city was named after the goddess Athena, the goddess of wisdom. The city-state is located in Attica, a peninsula with poor, rocky soil. The Athenians could not rely on farming as their source of livelihood, so they instead looked to the sea. Early in its history, Athens was ruled by tyrants, some of whom worked to create democracy. The Athenians then invented ostracism, to deal with the tyrants. Anyways, enough with the politics. The Athenian people traded with neighboring countries such as Italy and Egypt. They acquired wood from Italy and grains from Egypt. In return, Athenian people exported honey, olive oil, pottery, and silver. Athens is considered the cradle of the Western civilization, being the birthplace of democracy, Western philosophy, and literature. The Olympic Games, major mathematic principles, and more. Sadly, Athens can't stay great forever. The Spartans defeated the Athenians in the Peloponnesian War that lasted for several years. Now we move on to Sparta. Sparta. This is Sparta! This is the famous line of Leonidas in the movie 300 that shows that the Spartans were indeed ruthless and powerful. Sparta is a city-state located in Peloponnesus, on the southern part of the Greek peninsula. The Spartans trained their sons to live without luxury. They were encouraged to steal, but beaten if they were caught. Their government, unlike the Athenians, was an oligarchy instead of democracy. The government was a monarchy headed by two kings. Boys were taken away from their mothers and were trained to fight to survive. Some babies who were just born were left on the mountains because they were too weak to become good warriors. It's no surprise that the Spartans won the Peloponnesian War. Spartans discouraged trading because they believed it may lead to corruption. Instead, as a form of livelihood, they relied solely on farming. After the Spartans defeated the Athenians, the Spartans instilled many puppet governments loyal to the Spartan regime. They eventually overstepped their bounds and captured Thebes. Athens had already rebuilt their empire and allied themselves with Thebes, and together defeated the Spartans. Philip of Macedon. This guy, he came from Greece actually, Thebes. That's kind of close to Athens, just take a right, left, just go straight after you see the statues. When he was there in Thebes, he was a prisoner, he was a child, but then he left, he moved up north to Macedonia. But there, when he was a child in Thebes, he learned a lot about Greek culture, especially something that I really regret, how to build a strong army. Philip of Macedon, he became king of Macedonia at the year 359 BC. There, he knew he could defeat Greece, because I wasn't really that, how do I say this, united. Yeah, I was kind of weak, wasn't that glorious. But Macedonia was so strong, they could really just eat Greek up. And since they had such a strong army, an Athenian operator, one of my own, Demosthenes, warned me in Greece and especially Athens about the growing power of Macedonia. He really opposed the Macedonian expansions as it started getting closer. And then it came to the point where Philip of Macedon invaded Thebes, his own hometown, and he started getting closer and closer to Athens. And then he had a son, Alexander the Great.
During his youth, Alexander was tutored by the philosopher Aristotle till the age of 16. After Philip of Macedon was assassinated in 336 BC, Alexander succeeded his father to the throne and inherited a strong kingdom and an experienced army. At around 334 BCE, Alexander the Great made an equipped army and crossed Asia Minor. He made Babylon the capital, and then followed by India. Lastly, Alexander the Great died of fever after a year of conquering. The Hellenistic period began 300 years after Alexander the Great's death. Philosophical, astronomical, and scientific ideas were made during this time period. Alexandria was the home of math, astronomy, and geography. The Epicureans believed in having a simple, calm lifestyle to live a happy life. Lastly, the Stoics influenced Roman and Christian thinkers.